Hey, everybody, welcome to Act 3 on CHLY 101.7 FM in beautiful downtown Nanaimo. Today is a spectacular day. In the Zoom booth with me today is an incredibly wonderful, delightful woman who I have known for a number of years now, and she is a pinnacle in our community. She is just tremendous, particularly when it comes to nutrition and taking care of ourselves. Jennifer Frost is with us today in our Zoom booth. Welcome to the program, Jennifer. I'm so glad you're here. How are you, my dear?
I'm fabulous. Thank you for having me. What an honor. I'm just thrilled to be here. Thank you.
Well, I am absolutely delighted that you're able to join us as well. And I know that it's because your story to me is so inspiring. You know, I watched you in the restaurant business for a number of years. You became a very well-known chef here in Nanaimo. Then you moved and you've kind of been here and kind of all over the rock in the last little while. Our journey goes back a number of years ago, back in some karate days.
Yes.
And to see you shine the way that you are in community is extraordinary to me. So I'm just delighted that you're here. So why not tell our audience a little bit about your history and how you came to be a leader at Epicure?
Well, I had a restaurant in Victoria about 8 years ago. And unfortunately, the restaurant industry is not very kind to us at times. And I really kind of went down a broken path. It was extremely difficult.
Yeah.
The stress level was high. I ended up being quite broken from it. And I ended up on a journey of wanting to learn a new way. Because as they say, doing the same thing over and over again, you don't always get the best results. So when I came back to Nanaimo from Victoria, that was like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And I started the journey, first of all, to try to get off of a lot of prescriptions and everything that I had gotten onto from all the stress. And I did that through Young Living.
Yeah,
So Young, what's that?
Sorry, Mother, with Zoom. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if there are interruptions or shortages or bounces, dogs barking, chimes going, you know, phones ringing or whatever, it's part of the Zoom experience. And sometimes when I talk over my guest, it's, again, the same thing. It's part of the Zoom experience. Jennifer, what is Young Living? What does that mean?
So Young Living is predominantly an essential oil company, but they are so well-rounded in removing chemicals from your body. So their belief is that you can do everything from botanicals. So they have removed all chemicals other than chemicals that are natural from the earth. Because of course we have chemical compounds in our earth products as well. But it would be man-made chemicals are being removed from their products. So what I wanted to do was to just look at a different way. So with my doctor's help, I started removing some of the sleeping pills and, you know, anxiety pills, depression pills. And I did it healthily through essential oils and just like getting rid of the cleaning chemicals that change your hormones. So a lot of times there are hormone disruptors in the chemicals that are man-made. And I was going into menopause, which is really fun. And, you know, stress and all of that stuff. And I just wanted to learn a better way. So what I did is I went to 3 harvests with Young Living. So what that means is I went to 3 different locations where I actually cut down the trees and we chipped the woods and we actually distilled our essential oils so that I actually learned the whole process of what is the meaning of 100% pure essential oil. They have what is called seed to seal. So they take everything from the seed all the way through the growing process and all the way until the bottle, right? So you know everything that's in it. So I really learned a lot about it. And I went to seminars and just really dug deep about a new way to do things. And I did. I was successful and I got off all of my prescription medication and did it all botanical. quickly.
How long did it take you to go through that transition? That's a huge, huge transition.
Yeah, well, it basically with doctor's help, it took me about 6 months of just weaning off
Yeah,
properly. So taking a little bit off at a time, because of course we want to do everything with a doctor's help. I
absolutely.
mean, I would never give anybody any indication that you should do this without that type of support. And then I went to a seminar called Your Brain on Oils. So you can change the dopamine and the serotonin in your brain with essential oils to replace what those, say, antidepressants were doing.
Wow.
And, and not everybody can do this. There's going to be some people that definitely need the support of
Hmm.
those things, right? So you can't just cookie cutter everybody and say this will work for everybody. But
Absolutely.
you can definitely start to look at different ways. Okay. And then after that, did that journey, and I've been in Young Living now for like 3.5 years. And when I was at the harvest, I started to learn a process called raindrop technique. And
Mhm.
then that became my passion. I love it. It is a healing therapy that's done with 7 essential oils and then 2 blends. And it helps with autoimmune, inflammation, pain, emotion, aligning your body. And the thing that I love about it, it's kind of selfish, but all the people that come to me, I get to spend an hour with them, you know? And a lot of them are my friends and or have become my friends. So it's not only their appointment, but it's this wonderful catch up time. And then I also get all the oils on me. So, it's a win-win situation.
Some of these oils are so beautifully fragrant, right? That there is, like you said, that there is this opportunity for you to have a deep healing and a deep connection by
Oh
really
my, yes.
changing, the way that our body thinks. So many of us are on pharmaceuticals. For those that follow the show and know me well, they know that I have suffered from ulcerative colitis and autoimmune disease for over 30 years. And certainly the pharmaceuticals are nasty, and trying to
Mm,
find, especially when you're in flare, and for, right now that's where I am as I'm working through those pharmaceuticals. It was one of the reasons that inspired me to want to speak to you further about this, because I understand, that when you change the way that you do things in your body, if you're going through menopause on top of having an autoimmune disease, so many people are in really bad reactions to
mhm.
pharmaceuticals, and there is another way. There is
Yes.
another way. So I wonder, because you have been through that experience, I think that our audience would be truly interested to know, when you came off of the medications and you started floating your way through these essential oils and finding the right, for lack of better words, cocktail that worked best for you, what kinds of experiences did you find yourself going through in that process?
Well, I think that what happens is when you start to remove the unhealthy man-made chemicals, you start to feel better. You just start to have more energy, and there's a lot of essential oils that are really good for menopause. They're
Hmm.
really good for balancing off hormones and helping either up estrogen or up testosterone or progesterone, whichever it is that you're lacking. And you would find that out by going to a naturopath, and they would do a test, and that test would come back on where and what you need to work on. Then you would go and start to do a little bit of the research, or
Hmm.
come to me
Yeah,
and
of
and
course.
I could tell you, right? And so yeah, it's like fennel around the right ankle, and clary sage is amazing for hormones. So you just you just start to feel better because your liver isn't having to process
Yes.
all of these chemicals, right?
Yes, and your kidneys as well. They just take such a beating with so much of this. Do you ingest a lot of these oils, essential oils? Do you use them, or are they part of a tincture that you're rubbing on your body, or on your temple, on your how is it delivered through in order to make those changes?
Well, essential oil molecules are extremely small. So you can put them on your body and they'll go to where they need to. Now, we obviously have to be extremely careful about your wording on ingesting essential oils.
Good.
right? So Young Living has a plus line that you can use and ingest and use for cooking and all that other things.
Mhm.
The other oils are supposed to be used more topically and aroma, and in your diffusers and like inhaling,
Mhm.
and doing it that way. So I wouldn't recommend that people just go out there and start ingesting essential oils without knowing exactly what they are, because there's a lot of essential oils that you can find at Michael's or at the drugstore, and there's even some at gas stations. And I'm going to tell you what, you do not want to be doing that, because they're adulterated and synthetic products. So might not necessarily want to be putting them on your body as well. So you have to really do the research into your company
Yep.
and understand the product that you're looking at getting. And if you're wanting it botanically, you need it to be 100% from the bloodline of the plant.
Well, and also, this is a science. This isn't just, hoppy doppy doopy doppy stuff that says,
No.
let's go and try. There is an actual science behind this. And like all science, you need to be really cognizant of what it is you're doing. You need to talk to the experts. You need to be in line with doctors, naturopaths, physicians, and people
Yes.
like yourself who know what you're doing. This, and on this show and in any of the programs that we produce, we don't want people just to go out, as you suggested, go to the gas station or the drugstore and just grab a tincture and think, boom, I'm going to be healed. There's so much more to it than that. You talked about something that was really interesting to me in the beginning of the hour, though. You were talking about going to these street harvests. Um,
Yes.
and you talked about, a wood product or a tree, or, I'm not clear on what that was, but, and that you harvested the bark and that you were taking, how long did it take to be able to, for the one type of oil, what was the timeline it took you to be able to extract that?
So my first harvest I went to was called Highland Flats in Utah. So you would go out early in the morning, and what they would do is we would cut down the trees, and we did what was called Idaho blue spruce. And you cut them down, you chip it,
Hmm.
and we would fill like a whole truck. So what you want to do is always bring down trees predominantly in the freezing temperature, because the tree sends all of the oil to the needles to keep the tree alive. So
Right,
it takes it all the way from the roots and puts it in because it doesn't want to die.
right.
So that's where you get the most essential oils. So then you chip it down, you go back, and then it literally would take, by the time you put them into their steamers, and you'd pack it down and pack it down, and they were huge, and it would take maybe 4 hours to make the essential oil. And then what happens is that the fumes, the gas goes into a chamber, and then cold water goes onto it and
Hmm.
cools it down, and then takes that and turns it into oil, and then it bubbles up through the water into these chambers. And then what you get is all this essential oil on the top. It is just like the most remarkable thing to
Wow.
see, and it's
Wow.
it's emotional. Like when I first saw it, I was like, oh my God, is that the oil? Right?
Well, I can imagine it's quite a process because, as you said, you've got a truck of tree chips, and then from those tree chips, cold pressing and pushing and forcing that
Oh,
liquid to rise. And I would imagine the
amazing.
fragrance in the process must be just outstanding.
It's amazing. It's amazing. It's like having like 15 diffusers going off in your house with this one oil. And then they take the oil, and then right on site it gets tested and made sure that all the constituents of the oil are proper, and that there's nothing in it that would compromise what the essential oils are meant to do. Because
Hmm.
if there's anything in it that compromises it, they can't use it, because of course it gets tested so many times, and that's not what they're about. They're about it being pure. And then what they do is they take all the matter that's left over after it's been steam distilled, and then they use all of that matter out in their fields to to protect all the new trees that have been planted.
Does it fertilize itself in doing that as well to a certain extent?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're really enriching the compound of it even more.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
And then what you do is you stay on that farm for 5 days.
Wow.
Right? And so you're just learning and being educated on how the testing is done. And you're with like anywhere from 16 to 22 of the same minded people that you get to meet and learn their stories and dig down into brand new friendships. And the amount of the people that I've met through Young Living are my tribe, and we are still in contact, even if you know what, they're in Alberta or Calgary. We're still Zooming and Marco Poloing and
Yeah,
staying in
it's
touch.
grand. Oh, I'm
Yes.
delighted for you. That's so great. The first harvest was for that particular, for the spruce. What were the other two for? Did you have a favorite in the three harvests that you went to?
The second one was our only farm in Canada, which is in Fort Nelson, and it's Northern Lights Black Spruce. That one I think had to be my favorite, of course, because Paul came with me,
Yes, for
right?
Paul is your partner. Yes.
Yes. And so as they were all amazing because of the friends you met, but when you get to do it actually with your biggest supporter and the person that loves you, and they get to see what you're seeing through your eyes, and not just hearing you talk about it. And you know, Paul is like, he is an amazing support. Like, no matter what I ask, you know, I want to do an oil class here and I want you to build this, he's like, done, I'm on it. If
Yeah,
you know, we do a painting class and he's building easels for me, and he's like, he will do anything that would help support getting people to understand that there's a better way of healing, which is my purpose of sharing Young Living,
absolutely.
right?
But he's also along with that process, right? He's watched you go through those changes, right? As you said at the top of the hour, you know, this has changed your life on so many ways. How do you,
Yes.
what have been some of the biggest changes over the last 8 years for you?
Um, uh, wow, so many. Well, Young Living was a major change. Losing the restaurant was a big change, of course.
Hmm.
Then for me, it was once I got into the journey of cleaning everything up, then it went to food. And you know that I also am a major component in Epicure.
Yes, of
And
course.
that was for me almost even more comfortable, because I mean, I've been like cooking and in restaurants and in kitchens like since I was 16 years old.
Yes,
It's
yes.
it's been what I have done. So it kind of, when I started looking at Epicure, it was only for to get their product. And then
You did that transition because you were there, you were, you know, you would be, the restaurant had business had changed. You decided that, you know, enough is enough. I'm not doing that anymore. Then you move into the Young Living essential oils component and you start growing your knowledge and your base and, you know, obviously seeing some major changes in your body and in the way you're seeing the world. And then now, you know, this, you know, weight is coming off, changes are happening, your world is feeling a lot different and a lot better by the sounds of things. And then you fell into Epicure, or like what there must have been something that triggered that new next transition.
well, I had gotten through just life.
Yeah.
I had my weight had gotten up to around 230 pounds, and I really wanted to, even though I was doing all these um, chemical free things and everything, I was still getting this weight coming on, and I knew again I had to make another change. So I started going to all these personal growth um, seminars
Mhm.
to deal with, okay, I got to get my health back on track. And I met this amazing woman named, I shouldn't use her name, so I won't.
Okay, not too, but a person of influence.
Yeah.
Good.
And she told me about a program, an eating theory called Bright Line Eating, which
Mhm.
is all about, again, your brain. And so, because I had done so much of my healing about the brain with the essential oils, when this woman, Susan Pierce Thompson, kept on saying that you can retrain your brain in the same amount of time that I was taught that essential oils could do it, I was just like, what? Right? Oh.
Nice. Yeah,
And
yeah.
it was amazing. I got the audible. I listened to the audible for about 4 days, and I started November 4th at 230 pounds. 7 months later, I was 80 pounds down,
Wow.
and Epicure was the main component of the food with bright line eating. So
Wow.
I had to retrain my brain,
Mhm.
and then Epicure came in. When I lost my jobs at the COVID,
Mhm.
I actually picked up Epicure with my daughter, who has also in her journey lost over 100 pounds.
My goodness, that is absolutely incredible. That's a huge
Incredible.
amount of weight. And in all fairness, pharmaceuticals can mess up your weight like crazy. Illness can mess up your weight like crazy. Menopause for different people, different areas, different times can mess your life up like crazy. And usually what happens for many people is there's a lot of emotional baggage that goes with, the stuff that happens when we're over medicated, under medicated, over self-medicating, whatever it is that we're doing, our bodies change. And so it's more than just one thing that puts people back into this state of comfort and consciousness and being fully present and aware. Listen, if you have just tuned into the program, we're really, really glad that you are here. You're listening to Act 3 on CHLY 101.7 FM in Nanaimo. My guest by Zoom today is the beautiful and marvelous Jennifer Frost. We're talking about young living essential oils, Epicure, bright line eating, all kinds of really groovy stuff. And we're really glad that you tuned in today. So thanks for joining us. Jennifer, as we unpack some of those things, and the bright line eating, and you talk about 80 pounds and 100 pounds, it's more than our weight when all of these take place, right? It's more than the stuff. And you also said that you started taking classes on things. Did you take other classes along with bright line eating, or is bright line eating, sort of the facilitator of giving you some supports the way some of the other programs are when people are looking at weight management?
Yes. You know what? This really, she's a neurologist, the lady that wrote this.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just me understanding my relationship with food and my relationship with alcohol.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, for
And
a lot of women, alcohol is a big deal. That puts the weight on in a lot. People are self-medicating. Now that marijuana is legal, that's also a self-medication component. And of course, for many people who imbibe, they add to their calorie content because of the formidable munchies that people get, right? So there is a lot of reasons why people, accelerate their weight for sure.
100%. And when you're overweight and or like you said, self-medicating, you wake up the next day, you don't feel great, you don't want to move.
No.
And taking 80 pounds off of me, I want to move, I want to run up those stairs, I want to get out on the kayaks, I want to, like, I've gotten back to running, and like Paul and I on Saturday ran 12K without it even blinking an eye. And I mean, before I was struggling at running 3K, and it's like, it changes everything, you know.
I was
And
excited to see you run because, as I said, you and I have known each other, although not intimately. We haven't known, super, super well. We've been in passing for years and years and years. Uh, you know, but exercise, it was just different for you. And so when I saw that you had run 12K, I was
I know.
gobsmacked. Jen, I was absolutely gobsmacked. How exciting for you both. And I'm sure for Paul, it must have been really exhilarating as well, because I think really in all the years you've been together, he's really loved that you've been his partner. And to be a partner and a running companion on top of it, how
Yeah.
brilliant. Yeah. I'm sure it's done a ton for your relationship.
Well, it has, because of course, a lot of times I just didn't want to do stuff because I didn't have the energy.
Yeah,
and and now
absolutely.
I want to do things, and I really, I'm just, I really want to be a person that gives to the community. I want to be a person that, you know, I just read an audio or listened to an audible called Soup. And
Mhm.
it's all about who stirs the pot. And the more love you put in the pot, and the more compassion and understanding and and gratefulness is like how your life will be so much better. And it's like getting out and doing all this stuff is what makes me tick. I want to live a life of gratitude and amazingness with the people I love and the people that come into my business
Yeah.
and my, you know, like Paul and I are getting married this year, and it's so
Congratulations.
super exciting, and we have so much to do and accomplish, and it's the I have to say, since November and doing this journey, and not only that, but the amount of people that I coach on Bright Line Eating now
Yeah.
is great. Like I started today with my sister-in-law and her sister,
Isn't that
right?
marvelous? How
It's
exciting.
the best.
It's your family. You get to bring everybody right along with you. And that's, I think, really important. Now, we've talked a little bit about, like, just a shade. I want to dive into that a little bit, particularly as it relates to Epicure. Many of our listeners may not know what Epicure is.
Oh,
And so let's find out, let's unpack Epicure for a bit, shall
okay.
we?
So I started with Epicure in January 2018,
Mhm.
and oh, there I am.
Okay, all good.
And basically I bought it because I wanted the product. I went now into doing it as a business. They are a local Victoria company for
Hmm.
over 20 years, and they are a mother-daughter team. It's
Wow.
is fabulous. I love it. I love to support our local island. I love to support women. I love to support the whole movement of let's get good food into your body. Let's get it economically into your life.
Mhm.
And let's see how we can help our children not have to have products that are filled with fillers,
Exactly. And
right?
I mean, as we talked about for pharmaceuticals at the beginning of the hour, we recognize that any additives that are alien, that shouldn't be in the food, it doesn't help. It doesn't help our hormones. It doesn't help our brain. It doesn't help anything. I'll tell you, I did not know that Epicure was Victoria based.
Yes.
A Canada-wide, American-wide company. I bought a whack of it last year from a local distributors, and also a friend of mine. And I was like just gobsmacked at how many wonderful dishes could be made and how easy, right?
Easy. Well, that's
Easy.
their whole mission, right? Is good
Yeah,
food, economical, but the process of doing it quickly. We want to get out with our kids. We don't want to be hours in the kitchen, or we want to get out with our partners or our friends or and living life, not in the kitchen having to
that's
figure out what to eat. And that's
absolutely.
where they're great. Meal plans, getting that. And so when Nicole and I, my daughter, when we were doing Bright Line Eating, we were like, okay, like let's look at the best spices from Epicure. And so we can just not worry about having to read labels or figure out what things are. And it worked remarkable. So with that all being said, it's amazing how many people love the product. It's just such an easy business to get into. And especially if they just went into the States as of August of last year.
Wow.
So they are August was a big anniversary month, and they have been so busy and so inundated with all of the people ordering. They've had the biggest May, their biggest June, their biggest July, their biggest August. We have a brand new catalog coming out September 15th, which is going to be amazing. Some of the new products are looking so good.
Well, and so for the radio, it's a little bit harder for people to sort of understand, what those pictures look like. So I just to give it an easy peasy, Epicure has a number of different things. Spices are one component, and I know myself that there's a couple that are just outstanding. I particularly love them. I'm not good with the cool names that Epicure has for their spices, to be honest with you. I can't remember the names of them off the top of my head, but I can tell you that the jars are like this big, like so big. Yeah, radio, and my fingers going like that, like they're
Yeah,
big,
yeah.
right? They're a good size, they're good value, but the most important thing is they're all natural and they're all very flavorful. But in addition to that, they have dishes. So if you want to try like a spicy Thai rice dish, they have all the components without there being the chicken and the rice itself, but
That's right.
the spice like whatever it is that you would need to be able to make those.
Yeah, so if you wanted to make a butter chicken dish, you would buy their package, their butter chicken package, and then you would follow the recipe
Yes.
and add the chicken and put it on some beautiful basmati rice.
Yeah.
They have like beef stroganoff. They have Thai red curry. They have some brand new ones that I can't really say right now. And then they also have,
Come out in September when the new catalog comes out.
that's right. And then they have, and the one thing that a lot of people don't know is that they are a gluten-free company. No gluten. They're a nut-free facility, and they're sugar and salt conscious. So you can add salt, you can add sugar, but you can't take it away. So they're like keto friendly. There are people that need like less sodium, that are very, very worried. There's a lot of things with kids going to school about nuts. So that's why they,
Peanut allergies are terrible.
that's right. So with that nut free, and it's like they're never ever list, like nothing never ever goes in, right? Non-GMO is their big focus, being kosher. There's like they just move in the world of making your body healthier.
So what I'm hearing is this journey 8 years ago where the restaurant shuts down leads you into a path where you're now holistically looking after your entire being. Is that about summing it up somewhat?
100%.
So let's really break that down a little bit further, because I think that like for me, to watch someone like you trailblaze this, and to watch, and when I say trailblaze, in my opinion, like I said, I've known you for a number of years. I've watched your body change. I watched your philosophy on life change. I watched your stress level change. I watched your comfort in your own skin, like just bloom like the most incredible rose. Like you're so delightful in every way, and you glow. Like you literally, for the YouTube followers that are going to be subscribing to this channel, because you are glowing. So if you're listening to this radio station right now, please be aware that this will be on YouTube under Act 3. Please go to YouTube, subscribe to Act 3 Media, but because you're going to see Jennifer's face, it just shines in joy. It just shines in joy. But it couldn't have been easy to get there. I'm sure you had some obstacles along the way. And we're going to go right with the food thing from the obstacle all that way, because you've got this new diet, bright line eating, right? You're doing your best. You've already been working with essential oils. You've already been doing things that are feeling good. And then you're finding that perhaps some of the things that you used to love to eat or drink, you don't or can't do any longer. How was that for you, for that transition piece? And how did Epicure and the essential oils help you to just go over those difficult obstacles that would inevitably come up from time to time?
Well, you always have essential oils that help with stress.
Yes.
Okay. And I have an amazing support team. My daughter has been amazing. Paul has been amazing. And I was done being overweight. I was done not being well. And, I think one of my biggest components is when I went to the doctor, and this is so cocky of me. My doctor said,
do it. Let's go.
yeah, my doctor said, how much are you drinking a day? And I said, oh, about, a bottle of wine a day. And she goes, well, you should be like a glass of wine a week. And I said to my doctor, oh, that's never going to happen. So, and then I sat back and I was like, why am I going to the doctor if I'm not going to listen to what she's wanting me to do? And that's because my relationship with all of these things was not good.
Yeah.
So when I got my blood work back, I was almost going to be on diabetic medication, and I was also almost going to be on cholesterol medication.
Right.
So if you remember from the beginning, what did I say I did? I spent 6 months trying to get off all of my medication.
Yes.
because I didn't want that journey. So
Yes.
here I am, that many more years ago, about to go on more medication. And I was like,
It's
nope,
gonna happen. Yeah.
no. So I said to the doctor, I said, give me blood work for 6 months. I said, I'll have this taken care of. So 6 months to the day of her telling me about that, I went and got my blood work done, and I have healed and fixed all of it. All of my blood work is in range. I am healthier. I've got no reason to go on any medication. And I am like almost 56 years old, you know? And that is to me the reason to do these things when you're ready.
And I really want to emphasize that point, that being ready, it's more than just you got to come to a place where you're done. Like
Yep.
you're bloody well done. It's, it's enough, and enough is enough. In my own journey in life, I found that the best results have happened when I have said, I'm just finished. Unfortunately, because of the condition that I have, the medications have wreaked incredible havoc. I
Yeah.
cannot wait to get off of the medications. I've probably gained 40 to 60 pounds in the last 6 or 7 months in trying just to deal with the prednisone and the steroids that I have to take to manage the disease. So there is room, and there are places where pharmaceuticals are required and they are necessary. And there's a balance in between. So, okay, temporarily, wherever you are in this moment, if you're listening to this show right now, whether or not you've just been recently diagnosed of an autoimmune disease, whether you've been diagnosed of cancer, whether you've been diagnosed of high blood pressure or diabetes, or, really the concept of even having a system right now where COVID-19 could take effect. Part of the reason why we get to these places is our body is knocking on its own door saying something's not quite right. And so you need to get really, really investigative. You need to be honest with yourself, honest with your doctor, and say, okay, look, I'm not happy, and this is what's going on. And you're quite right. There's a lot of women and men, I hate to say this, it sounds so very stereotypical and very unfair. So if you're a man and you're listening, you can, take this with a grain of salt, because it's meant in the purest of ways. There's been that rap session that men, they drink a lot because they're stressed out, and they, that's how they're self-medicating. There is an alarming number of women that do the same thing.
Yep.
Alarming number of women, and we hide it. Women hide it. I read an article in Shambhala magazine about 4 months ago that talked about the hidden alcoholism in women over 50.
Yep.
And part of it is the self-medication. It's just like, I'm trying to be the best, all things for all people, all of the time, and I'm not giving myself a break. And I'm hormonal. And I'm using the pronoun I in this conversation, meaning for the collective, right? Is that there's a lot of women that are really no longer in their 50s when they're starting to get into this place of menopause. They may not be in that place where they can actually see their unhappiness and their changes or their hormone deficiencies. So you need to go see a doctor. And then when you do, make a naturopath doctor, and perhaps someone like yourself, Jennifer, who can deal with the other side of the coaching part to get people past and go to the next level of life.
Well, and that's it. It's support,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
when I get the people that are interested in my weight loss journey, my first thing is get the Bright Line Eating book.
Yeah.
Wrap your head around it. Do you believe that you don't have maybe the best relationship with food?
Yeah.
Once you've done that, and then you're wanting some input, like, because this is what I do. I just help for the first little bit for the questions and all that stuff, and I'll give them some direction. But
Sure.
support is amazing. If your support team don't want to help you and they want you to keep drinking and eating unhealthy and going down that path, then it's going to be hard. So it's really important.
Tribe, in all fairness, they're probably looking for their own tribe, and they're
Yeah.
in their own denial about what's going on for themselves, in all fairness, right?
And it's true, because I mean, right now when we're getting into our 50s, where our kids are hopefully up and gone.
Yep.
And it's all about our girlfriends, and we're going out with our girlfriends, and it's good to have some prosecco, and it's good to have some wine, and then we're going to have, you know, some cheese and this and that, and it's fabulous. I love it. I love my girlfriends. I love having, and now that I'm on maintenance, I'm having a couple of drinks again, but my relationship now is better.
That's the key. It's the relationship that you have with the things you're putting in your body, regardless of what they are, right? It's not just, I mean, food is one, drugs are another, you know, alcohol is another. It's also the self-talk. How do we talk to ourselves in a way that is uplifting and brings us to a higher level, right? If we're constantly beating ourselves up, particularly when we are in some form of crisis, job transition, familiar change, and many people, you know, you mentioned that you were in your 50s now. At the time of this taping, in 4 days, I will be 57. And at the time of this taping at 57, I'm as much a caregiver in a different way. My roles and responsibilities as an adult woman are changing, right? And
Yeah.
so there's a lot of pressures that come onto us. And I think that people really need to get real with who they are and how they can look after themselves better. And like I said, Jennifer, to me, you're an inspiration for what you've done and a great leader that people really can look up to, you know, and be mentored by. And so I'm just really glad you joined the program. If you have just tuned in, I'm just doing a quick station identification here. If you have just tuned in to CHLY 101.7, you're listening to Act 3. I'm Kathy Holmes. I'm really glad to be your host. I'm so glad to be able to, on Vancouver Island and on the Sunshine Coast and even into downtown Vancouver, I'm able to bring some really interesting and marvelous guests to our program who can teach us a little something about something. And Jennifer today is sharing with us her knowledge about young living essential oils, Epicure, a way of eating called Bright Line Eating. And she also mentioned a very fascinating book called Soup, which I'd like to explore a little bit more. Jennifer Frost is in the Zoom booth with us today. So as this soup piece comes, it's sort of like a tailoring from a little bit of that segue, you know, and say station identification, is that what we feed ourselves not only on from a nutritional aspect, but also from a mental, a physical, spiritual, an overall emotional aspect. Do you find that now that you're in your 50s and you've taken all these measures, do you find that you're different in your own skin? And if so, what does that look like and feel like for you?
Oh, so different. You know, when I was younger, I had so much ego, and I was so aggressive with what I wanted, and it was all me, right? If I wanted to get a new position, I would go over you, it wouldn't matter. I was always a very I wasn't the gentlest individual. When I want something, I really want it. Now,
personality, you're driven.
yeah, very driven. And now I'm compassionate, I'm driven, but I'm way more about, I want it to be a tribe and a team and a loving way. My mothering skills have gotten so much better. This journey with Bright Line Eating and Epicure with Nicole has been amazing. We talk like 2 or 3 times every day, and Soup, like, I just started listening to it this weekend while I was camping, and it just really reiterated to myself what I wanted my Epicure team to look like, what I want my family to look like, what I want my friendship to look like. So Soup is all about who steers the pot, like I said earlier, and what you put into that pot is the result of how things will taste. So if you put love into that pot, it will taste like love.
Delicious. Absolutely.
If you put anger into that pot, that's what you're going to get back. If you're always spewing anger or negativity or always pointing out blame, it's not my game.
No.
I would rather be quiet and assess it. If I find something I don't like, assess it, look at what that person is going through, look to see if I can find a reason to make it not look as negative as it possibly can. And I just love that thought, right? And it was all about what you put in your soup, right?
I do too. I love the idea because it's very, very true. And it's particularly right now, and I'm curious about your take on this during this very critical time in our communities. You know, certainly I was listening to Dr. Bonnie Henry, again at the time of this taping. If you're watching this show years from now, and I hope you are, you know, what we'll find is that COVID-19 has wreaked havoc on so many communities in the province of British Columbia. We have been very blessed on Vancouver Island that our numbers are relatively low by comparison. But what I've noticed is that those people that were self-isolating before and were cranky before or challenged before or were very frightened about the business of living before, that's been magnified for them. And for those that are more out there and, you know, community oriented, community based precautions definitely being taken, that people who are working in community are still finding solutions to work within community and bring that bowl of soup into a kinder, more compassionate food.
Yes.
What's your take on that? Have you noticed in your community and with Ladysmith, have you seen a change or a challenge as it relates to COVID-19 and also in the way that we take care of our nutrition and look after ourselves and our bodies?
Well, I think stress is so extremely hard on the body.
It really
It
is.
ups our cortisol, it messes with our adrenals, and it gives us fatigue. And a lot of times we will go to food or alcohol to try to get that energy, which we believe it's going to bring us.
Absolutely.
The
Sure.
my thought on COVID is I am going to honor your opinion of COVID to everybody that talks to me.
Yeah.
I am not going to judge you. I am not going to try to put my opinion down your throat.
Yeah.
I know that this is a very, as everyone knows, the 100% go about. We need to go into this gentle and compassionate
I
and
agree.
love on people more and more and more because people are afraid.
Yes.
So love on people from a distance. I was going to say get in there and give them a big old hug, but don't do that.
Cyber hug. Yeah. For
Right?
sure. Yeah.
And when somebody says something that you may not agree with, honor that they are allowed to have their opinion.
Yeah, and it could
And
be
it's
different than yours, and it's okay that it is.
yes, and if someone says to wear a mask, then wear a mask or don't go into the environment.
Yeah.
You don't have to wear a mask, but if it says it requires to wear a mask, wear it. Be gentle, be kind, that people are just trying their best to get through this. And that is where I want to come from with everything. And I think that Epicure blew up because of COVID. And there's so many companies out there where these direct sales women and men are
I'm gonna have
providing
to pull you back just
for their
so, so sorry,
families, where
Jennifer.
other people have lost their jobs because of COVID. Local.
I'm so sorry, Jennifer. We lost a little bit of your transmission there for a moment. The Zoom call just sort of ducked out and you just broke up 3 or 4 times or so. Respectfully, if you're listening to CHLY 1017 right now, please know that it is a Zoom call and there are sometimes technical difficulties. Jennifer, I'm sorry, you were just in the middle of saying that you were trying to be gentle and kind and to honor people's experiences, and then we lost you. Would you mind repeating your statement? And we're back. Sorry about that. You know, technology is what technology is, but you're still listening to Act 3 on CHLY 101.7. And Jennifer Frost is still with me in the Zoom booth today. Jennifer and I, just before we had a little technical difficulty, we're talking about COVID-19 and how it is relating to the people in our community. And Jen was just really starting to express how about compassion and empathy and kindness and what that looks like in her journey with people that she may run across that are experiencing their fears around COVID-19. Is that about right, Jen?
100%. I think in everything in life, come at it with kindness and compassion, and we can get through anything. if you come at it with anger and disappointment, it makes things so much harder.
It's so true. And, again, as we've talked about a little bit with, every part of your journey in this last 8 years, right? You keep coming at it with the same positivity, the same wisdom of, you can make those changes. You can change your way you think, the way you feel. You need to make some adjustments. You need to cope with those adjustments, and you need to move forward in a positive light. And the world is a softer place when that happens.
Mm-hmm.
As we just have a couple minutes left of the program, Jennifer, as always, I like to ask my guests their takeaway. Like, if you could leave with our community or anyone who's watching the program, a little piece of wisdom, what might that look like for you?
I think for me, when I talk to people, I always want to say, honor yourself, be soft in your journey. Like, we will have ups and downs on every day and every week and every month and every year. And our journey is always going to change. Don't try to duplicate somebody else's journey. Don't look at others and think that they have more or less or better or worse. Just honor yourself, be kind to yourself, right? Because that's just the best way. Be kind to you and love on you. I mean, it's so many people will respond better if you ask for help than to try to do this journey yourself.
It's hard for people to ask for help, though, Jennifer. That's such a great piece of advice. And asking for help doesn't necessarily mean that you say to somebody, please help me, although that would be the easy way. People can't read your mind, right?
Mhm. Yes. And if you ask for help, and if you're a person that struggles with it, start slow. Ask for a piece of gum.
Yes. Ask
Then
for the gum.
ask for someone if they wouldn't mind going for a walk with you for 15 minutes so that you could share some of your journey with them.
Yeah.
And they will give their opinion to you, and then you get to use that opinion for either you want to use it or you don't. Asking for help when you struggle is so important, because we need a tribe. We need people to lock arms with us and
Yeah.
help our journey be better.
Well, and even more so, that vulnerability piece, that shared experience piece is really what we need in order to grow. If we think that we know all that we think that we know, most of the time we don't know half of what we need to know. And so giving ourselves that permission to say, hey, what's your thought on
Yeah.
that, makes all the difference. Hey? Yeah. So, Jennifer, if somebody wanted to reach out for support and contact you for some advice or some conversation, are you comfortable with sharing your contact information?
100%. I mean,
Right.
the more people that want some support, the better. Reach out, ask for help, ask for like anything. I'm happy to have a conversation with you. My email is j2205@telus.net, and reach out on Messenger or Facebook. I have a Raindrop page on Facebook, and I also have a clean eating crew on Facebook too. Just if you're interested in learning some new things about healthy eating, I've got a plethora of information for people.
Well, I have enjoyed some of the many postings that you have put, and have been absolutely honored and thrilled that you were able to spend some time with us today. Thank you for coming. Thanks for sharing your wisdom and your incredible story. You've given me such wonderful food for thought, and I know that our audience is very grateful for the journey that you've taken so that we can make our journey a little bit easier. So thanks for being a part of the show today.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me. I was very honored. Like I said at the beginning, it's a great place to be able to help others that are looking for somebody for guidance.
Fantastic. Well, thanks again. You have been listening to our program Act 3 on CHLY Radio, and hopefully that you are subscribing to us on our YouTube station. And it is our prayer that you will be watching our new television program that is due to come out at the middle to the end of September on Shaw Spotlight. So please feel free to reach out, ask for help, get in touch with Jennifer. I'm going to ask one more time for her to give you that email address because I forgot to ask you to get a piece of paper. Normally do beforehand. So if you haven't got that piece of paper, let's do it again. And she'll give you that information one more time. Thanks, Jen.
Okay, J2205@telus.net.
Fantastic. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time on Act 3.